What's going on, YouTube? Come on, I want to show you something. This right here is my 2-year-old Madeline. Look at her when she's smiling and giggling. She gets more and more talkative every day. Let me tell you a little bit about my daughter. She loves cheesy poofs for some reason, and she loves barbecue potato chips just like her old man. She likes coloring and apparently thinks that Swiper from Dora the Explorer is a real thing that continually tries to swipe her pacifiers that she calls DDs. She's also a little cuddlebug. She loves to give hugs and will jump up from a near deep sleep to run to the door when I get home from work to scream, "Daddy!" She comforts the kids in her daycare when they get hurt, the same way she comforts her baby brother. This right here is Tyler. He's a moose, isn't he? Madeline is more than 2 years his senior and doesn't quite have him by 10 pounds. No matter how rough of a day my wife or I have, he'll always greet us with a smile. He's already showing a penchant for chocolate like his father and big sister. And yesterday he literally tried to grab the peanut butter cup out of my hand and tried to eat it, along with some McDonald's french fries out of his mother's hand. He's got beautiful gray eyes with a blue twinge to him. These are my children. They're great kids. They love to smile and laugh. They love each other. Every time they're in the same room together, Madeline gives Tyler a kiss and he smiles bigger than anything I've ever seen before. I make this video not just as another means to show off my children and how beautiful they are, but to show you that if Armageddon comes tomorrow, these two beautiful, wonderful children would be killed. I know what you're saying. That's not true. Jehovah will judge their heart at Armageddon and they'll be put into paradise. That's actually not the case. According to the Watchtower, because I'm an apostate, my 2 children will die. Look at some of these quotes. Watchtower, 1965, March 15th, pages 165 to 166, paragraph 4 of Who Will Be Resurrected and Why. At the flood, all those people outside Noah's Ark, namely the men, the women, the children, and babies, the Nephilim are the hybrid offspring of the marriage of the disobedient angels and human daughters of men, all such then living were suddenly executed by God's direct act, and were thus destroyed forever. No resurrection, forever. So it will be with all persons on earth who are not in harmony with God's kingdom at the fast approaching battle of Armageddon. What will happen to young children at Armageddon? From Reasoning in the Scriptures, pages 47 and 48. The Bible does not directly answer that question, and we're not the judges. However, the Bible does show that God views the young children of 2 Christians as holy, 1 Corinthians 7:14. It also reveals that in times past, when God destroyed the wicked, He likewise destroyed their little ones. Watchtower, 1950, November 15th, page 463. Questions from readers. Children are affected by the course of their parents, and parents are warned that their iniquity is visited on their offspring unto the 3rd and 4th generation. Exodus chapter 20, verse 5 and 6. Parents are commanded to instruct their children in God's way, and if in these last days parents refuse to heed the divine instruction and warning, they bring destruction upon themselves and their small children at Armageddon. Deuteronomy chapter 6, 6 and 7, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. Watchtower, 1968, February 1st, pages 83 and 84. By all the evidences, this system of things is hastening to its final confrontation with the God of justice at Armageddon. Parents and children who fail to gain the mark on their foreheads, that is, an adequate appreciation of God's moral standard, are sure to suffer. Parents will be held accountable for their children, and children will suffer for the failure of their parents. Watchtower, 1952, January 15th, pages 42 and 43, paragraph 22, Training Children for Life in the New World. At this point, we must consider the matter of family responsibility as legally presented in the Scriptures. Under the biblical principle of family responsibility, where the father or the mother or both become iniquitous, adverse judgment comes upon the entire household of minor children. Take the example of Achan, who committed a fatal trespass against Jehovah. By so doing, Achan brought condemnation upon his whole family of children, and they were all stoned to death with him. Joshua chapter 7, verse 1, 24 and 25. Paul speaks of this principle in the reverse, which might be referred to as family merit. If the father or the mother of a family is a believing and practicing Christian, he or she brings merit to the entire family of children. Paul writes, "For the unbelieving husband is sanctified in relation to his wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified in relation to the brother. Otherwise, your children would really be unclean, but now they are holy. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 14. Therefore, this proves that minor children of Christian parents are indirectly sanctified or counted worthy of protection in God's sight until they reach the age of individual responsibility. But they can be baptized before then. I digress. Hence, in this day of final judgment since 1918, parents are responsible for the final destiny of their minor children. When Armageddon strikes, all minor children who are not under such family merit arrangement will meet annihilation with no hope of resurrection. This is strongly indicated at Ezekiel chapter 9 verse 6, where it is written, "Slay utterly the old men, the young men, and the virgin, and the little children and women, but come not near any man who has the mark." Watchtower 1952, June 1st, page 341, paragraph 2, Fixing Destinies in the Judgment Period. This judgment period will be completed during this generation, and when the execution of judgment starts at Armageddon, the destinies of all person then living will have been fixed. Some become perturbed over this and speculate on the existence of a third class, not separating the sheep and goat categories, and which will be resurrected in the millennium for his judgment period. Into this third class they would put all babies and children, and any adults not reached by the kingdom message at the time Armageddon strikes. Such speculators can produce no solid scriptural support for their theory. It seems to be spawned either by human sentiment over creatures' salvation or by negative defeatist attitude towards successful completion of the preaching work, or by both. I love that one. I love that one. Again, we're on paragraph 8 now. If a parent chooses to sin against the Holy Spirit despite the eternal interests of his offspring, that then becomes the responsibility of the parent. We have seen how the destructions at the time of the flood and at the time of the fiery downpour on Sodom and Gomorrah were final. No small children were preserved in the ark. They must have been slain by Jehovah. Many babes and youngsters must have been in Sodom and Gomorrah, but their youthful innocence did not cause Jehovah to count them righteous. The presence of 10 righteous ones would have saved the cities. There were certainly more than 10 unresponsible children. Along with their unrighteous parents, they were slain by Jehovah. Genesis chapter 18, verses 20 through 33, chapter 19, 1 through 26. Watchtower 1951, May 1st, page 286, question from readers. Parents are commanded to instruct their children in God's ways, and if in these last days parents fail to heed the divine instructions, they may bring destruction not only upon themselves, but upon small children at Armageddon. This is from the book, This Means Everlasting Life, pages 94 and 95. The scriptures show that God has brought certain judgment periods upon human society at certain times, during which he held them accountable for their course of action, that they may be really accountable for themselves and for their young children dependent upon them. He caused testimony to be given that they might know the issue and make their decision, by which they would determine their destiny, independent of any inherited condemnation from Adam. He warned parents not only of the consequences to themselves, but also of those to their unresponsible offspring. Our present day is also a time of judgment, and is this the objectors to the answer in November 15th Watchtower apparently failed to fully appreciate. For 71 years, the Watchtower has been publishing the warning of God's Word, and since 1919, Jehovah's Witnesses have been active as never before in giving a worldwide witness. In this time of judgment, when the enthroned king is separating the nations as shepherd divides the sheep from the goats, abuse and persecution come upon them from both adults and children under the influence of their elders. So it is because we now live in a period of judgment that we say all persons are on trial. And because children are present, they too come in for judgment. Their case is not parallel to that of Adam and Eve's offspring, who were not present in Eden at the time of their pair's judgment trial. Lovely! How about Watchtower 1972, January 15th, page 51. But are you yourself marked with that mark of dedication and Christian personality? Are you striving to do as the Christian apostle Paul admonishes the parent to do, namely bring them up in the discipline and mental regulating of Jehovah, and are obediently responding to your loving efforts Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1 through 4. Only if this is the case can you trust that the merit of the mark in your own forehead will extend to your minor children, and that they will mercifully be spared with you from execution or destruction in the oncoming great tribulation, such as not occurred since the world's beginning until now, no, nor will occur again. Matthew chapter 24, verse 21. Now in the short time that remains is time to do this, before the modern day man clothed with the linen finishes his marking of all worldly foreheads, and the symbolic 6 men start using their smashing weapons on all unmarked foreheads that they discover. You parents, do you want your little children to be considered not unclean, but holy, because of your marked forehead in Jehovah's day for executing vengeance? Naturally you should. But do not presume that your children, who are intelligent enough to make the decision and personally dedicate themselves to Jehovah through Christ, will come under merit of your marked forehead. So if the forehead's unmarked, your children are going to die. If your forehead is marked, it doesn't necessarily mean your children will live. Awesome. Not only will my children die, but they will never stand a chance of resurrection. Obviously, these are my kids, but there are billions of children around the world, most of which are no different than my 2 children, condemned to destruction. Condemned to destruction without the chance of resurrection. What say you, though? Do you think that children should die for the sins of their parents? If a serial killer happens to be a parent and Armageddon happens tomorrow, do you think his children should die because his heart is wicked? Do you think that's fair? Do you think you could look into these 2 kids' eyes and tell them, I'm sorry kids, but you have to die? You see, your father just doesn't believe that Jehovah's Witnesses have the right religion. Since I'm the question guy, I figure I might as well end this video with a question. What do you think? Is the Watchtower wrong here, and God will actually judge children and babies after their own heart when Armageddon comes? Or is the Watchtower right, and God will be killing children and babies indiscriminately due to the actions of their parents? Tim Kilgore, signing off.